Have you ever wondered why people in the 70s were so slim, even though they ate at fast food restaurants like McDonald's? So I want to do some research, and we're going to get into that today. Okay, and once again, this show is brought to you by Solomon Fitness World, where strength meets elegance. So yeah, when I look at the photos from women back in the 70s and people period, I noticed that they were so much more slimmer, so much more fitter. And I did some more research and I see that okay, McDonald's ran things totally different, which we're gonna get into this today. Fair use.
You blame fast food for America's obesity problem, but the same McDonald's menu in the 1970s maintained healthy weights. Here's what changed everything. Back in the 1970s, ordering a large drink at McDonald's meant getting 16 ounces of soda. Today's small is 16 ounces. The medium, a whopping 21 ounces. And don't get me started on the large, 32 ounces of liquid sugar that would have seemed absolutely ridiculous to someone grabbing lunch in 1975. But here's where it gets really wild. The original McDonald's fries, their regular size, contained roughly the same amount of potatoes as today's small order. What they called a large back then, smaller than today's medium. The supersize that dominated the 90s, nearly triple what people considered a normal portion in the disco era.
Wow, so it's tripled. I remember back when I was a kid and I used to get McDonald's and I used to want it to be super sized and yeah, and this totally makes sense. Like myself, I haven't ate at McDonald's in a long time, but just it makes sense to okay, so people back then had smaller the food at McDonald's has smaller portions and they also had fewer ingredients and they actually use real flavor. One thing that they're going to get into is that back then until the 80s, until the late 80s, you can go inside a McDonald's and they actually would be dicing up fresh onions. Imagine how it'd be now if you went inside a McDonald's, you could smell some of the fresh ingredients. But no, what happened was they cared more about profit and hooking you like a drug.
Burgers tell the same story, just with more beef involved. A Big Mac in 1975 was noticeably smaller than today's version. Quarter pounders were actually closer to what we call sliders now. Thinner patties, modest buns, and simple toppings like ketchup, mustard, onions, and maybe a pickle if you were feeling fancy. No triple stack monsters drowning in
You fancy, huh? You fancy, huh?
17 different sauces. Then there's the sneaky truth about what restaurants called their sizes. A 1970s large meal at most fast food chains contained fewer calories than today's medium combo. Makes sense, right? Except somewhere along the way, our brains got rewired to think these massive portions were normal. The psychology behind this shift wasn't accidental. When restaurants realized they could charge slightly more for dramatically larger portions, profit margins improved. Customers felt
So once again, it was all about them getting more profit.
like they were getting incredible value. Meanwhile, our stomachs slowly stretched to accommodate these new normal sizes without us even noticing. Consider this. The average fast food meal in 1975 contained roughly 350, 400 calories.
Ain't that something? Just 350 to 400 calories? That's not a lot. I mean, wow, that makes sense.
Today's equivalent meal, often pushing 800, 1,000 calories before you even add the fries.
Wow, twice as much, almost three times the amount. This is why people are bigger. So people now they're eating more, they're more lazier, they're using Uber Eats for everything, and then they're not moving their body and they eat more. So that totally makes sense. And then also on top of that, though, the food now has more ingredients and more artificial ingredients at that.
And drink. We're talking about doubling the energy intake from what used to be considered a satisfying meal. Well, portion sizes were just the beginning of how different fast food used to be. The ingredients themselves tell an even more fascinating story, one that goes way beyond just making things bigger. But the weird part,
Oh, speaking of this though, I wonder. I wonder would probably not though. I'm thinking about like nowadays you can have some McDonald's and just leave it out and it like lasts forever. And I wonder was that the case back in the 70s? Just food for thought.
Is how these changes happen so gradually that most people never notice the transformation taking place right in their drive-through orders. What made those smaller portions actually satisfying instead of leaving people hungry? The answer lies in something most fast food companies abandoned decades ago, and it has everything to do with how they prepared the food itself. Walk into any 1970s fast food kitchen and you'd actually recognize most of the ingredients. Crazy concept, right? Back then, a bag of McDonald's fries contained exactly three things: potatoes, beef tallow, and salt. That's it. No
Wow, just only three ingredients? Who would have knew? So that totally makes sense. So just yeah, cause that's a whole lot better. So basically, it was more closer to making homemade fries.
methyl cellulose, no natural beef flavoring, no dextrose, just real food that your grandmother could pronounce.
Once again, dextrose that's something that's also it's in different protein shakes and it's in different drinks and that's super bad for you. And even some of the health even some of the healthy ones have dextrose in it, which is actually bad for you.
The fryer oil alone tells the whole story. Most chains used simple beef tallow or straight peanut oil, not today's complex blends of soybean oil mixed with TBHQ, citric acid, and dimethylpolylsiloxane. Yeah, try saying that last one 3 times.
So once again, and then it's also the same with now. So now you think that man, these restaurants are making it healthy. No, these restaurants they're using the cheapest oil possible so they can just stretch it and just make more meals. And you wonder, like, man, why is it that whenever I go to the restaurants, I gain a few pounds? Well, it's because of that. So that's one reason because they're using the cheapest oil possible, and your body feels inflamed, and then they're using all these artificial ingredients. So just so much, and you're eating so much, and it's not even real sugar. Back then, even the drinks had real sugar in it, or it had sugar cane, not high fructose, a high fructose.
Fast. The weird part is, those 1970s fries actually tasted better with fewer ingredients. Burger buns were made from flour, water, yeast, and a pinch of sugar. Compare that to today's bun ingredient lists that read like chemistry textbooks. Modern buns contain calcium propionate, azotic carbonamide, and about 15 other additives you'd need a PhD to understand. But back then, your local bakery could have made the same bun using ingredients from their pantry. Then there's the chicken nugget situation. When McDonald's first introduced Chicken McNuggets in 1980, they contained under 10 ingredients: real chicken, flour, seasoning, oil for frying. Done. Today's nuggets, over 30 ingredients, including autolyzed yeast extract and sodium phosphate.
30 ingredients, man, 30 man-made ingredients just to go and get you addicted. So it went from 10 ingredients from 1980 to now 30 ingredients. Wow. That's one of the main reasons. This is why I do not even eat at fast food restaurants.
It's like they took a simple recipe and decided to complicate it just because they could. Let's not forget potato chips, which were basically edible perfection in their simplicity. Lay's famous slogan wasn't lying, bet you can't eat just one, because they were made from potatoes, oil, and salt. No artificial flavors, no MSG, no mysterious natural flavoring.
Yeah, for some reason, I always, whenever I hear the word MSG, for some reason, I think, man, that sounded like it could have been a bomb rap group back in the 80s. Maybe that's just me.
The chips were addictive purely because they tasted good, not because they were engineered in a lab to trigger specific brain responses. Even the preservatives were minimal. Food spoiled faster, sure, but that meant fresher turnover. Restaurants couldn't let
Speaking of food spoiling faster, that's one thing I have noticed though too. Because have you all ever noticed that now you can leave a bread out and it'll last for weeks and weeks versus if you had a bread like a Ezekiel bread, you have to leave it in the freezer because it spoils really fast because it doesn't have as many preservatives. So that's why even like myself, when I go and buy the bread, the Ezekiel bread is in the frozen section and they keep it over there versus the other breads that they have out there because they put in the preservatives and other harsh ingredients to make it last a long time so they can make more money.
Items sit around for weeks because they'd actually go bad. This forced better inventory management and fresher food. Revolutionary thinking, apparently. The shift happened gradually, so most people didn't notice when ingredient lists started growing longer. Companies discovered that adding stabilizers meant longer shelf life. Flavor enhancers meant stronger taste.
Because that's one thing that I see, because that's the main reason I notice that people are having issues. Also, even when they go to the grocery store, most of the foods in the grocery stores are unhealthy. So you have to know, and that's one thing that I teach my clients. I give them different tools that they can go and be able to know if a food is healthy or not instantly. Because most of the food in there is bad. So that's one of the main reasons why most people are overweight now.
Emulsifiers meant better texture. Each addition seemed logical from a business standpoint, but the cumulative effect transformed simple recipes into chemical formulas. What's fascinating is how this ingredient creep coincided with other major changes in the industry. Because while restaurants were busy complicating their recipes, something even more dramatic was happening with their portion sizes and sweeteners. The real villain in today's fast food story might surprise you. It's not just bigger portions or more processing, it's something that didn't even exist in most 1970s fast food. High fructose corn syrup wasn't widely used until the 1980s, which means an entire generation grew up.
Look at that. Look at them women. Look at that. Look at everybody's fit, slim, and looking happy, natural. Look at natural hairs, flat stomachs. Look at that.
Without this stuff flooding their system. Back then, sugar was sugar. Plain old cane sugar or beet sugar, used sparingly because it actually cost money. A
Mm.
typical soda contained real sugar, and honestly, companies didn't dump nearly as much of it into everything. The sweetness level was more like a gentle nudge rather than today's full contact sugar assault. Here's where things get weird. In the 1970s, you could actually taste the other ingredients in your food because they weren't masked by layers of corn syrup sweetness.
Even myself, I'm 39, so I wasn't around in the 70s, but I heard our kind of stories. But I really can just look at the proof of the people as to how fit people was. I think about how when I used to watch Soul Train, the women was fit. I would watch what's the name, Foxy Brown, and how fit she was.
That McDonald's ketchup? Less sugary? The burger buns? They tasted like bread, not cake. Even the sodas had a cleaner, sharper taste that didn't leave you craving more within minutes. But the really sneaky part is where sugar started hiding. Today's fast food is loaded with hidden sweeteners in places you'd never expect. The chicken sandwich has sugar in the marinade. The salad dressing is basically liquid candy. Even the French fry seasoning contains sweeteners. In the 1970s, this wasn't happening on nearly the same scale. The shift to high fructose corn syrup changed everything, and not just because it was cheaper to produce. This stuff processes differently in your body than regular sugar does. It doesn't trigger the same fullness signals, which means you can consume way more calories without feeling satisfied.
So and it's something. So basically, they wanted to have everybody to eat more food so then they can make more money. So you keep buying, you keep buying. It kind of remind me of like how one of the worst things you can do is go in a grocery store when you're hungry, because then you're buying everything in sight because you're hungry.
Makes sense why people started getting hungrier faster after meals, right? Then there's the domino effect nobody saw coming. Once corn syrup became the standard sweetener, food companies realized they could make everything taste better by adding more sweetness. Suddenly, unsweetened foods started tasting bland by comparison. Your taste buds literally adapted to expect higher sugar levels in everything. Well, the 1970s fast food eater would probably find today's regular Coke overwhelmingly sweet. Their medium fries would taste like dessert to someone from that era. The baseline for what tasted normal was completely different and arguably much healthier. And the weird part is, people back then weren't walking around complaining that their food was too bland or boring. They were perfectly satisfied with flavors that weren't artificially enhanced with sweeteners. But sugar wasn't the only thing that was simpler and more recognizable in 1970s fast food. The actual core ingredients told a completely different story, too. Walk into a fast food joint in the 1970s and you'd taste something we've almost forgotten: real food made with real ingredients. Those milkshakes, they came from actual milk and ice cream, not some chemical powder mixed with artificial thickeners. The machine would whir, blending cold dairy into thick, creamy perfection that coated your straw. Your Snickers bar had honest-to-goodness chocolate and whole peanuts you could see and crunch. No natural peanut flavor or chocolate-flavored coating. Just the real deal. The weird part is how we got so used to fake flavors that we forgot what authentic taste actually means.
Ain't it something? And I would say also the same thing when it comes down to people nowadays. They're so used to fake people, fake friendships. Every nigga is fake, 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 fake.
Burgers were refreshingly simple back then. Ground beef, a sprinkle of salt, maybe some pepper. That's it. The patty didn't need 17 different seasonings because the meat itself had flavor. Buns were basic white bread rolls, not sugar-loaded vessels pumped with dough conditioners and preservatives. Then there's the vegetables. Remember when fast food chains actually chopped onions in the restaurant? The smell would hit you as you walked in, sharp and fresh. Tomatoes came in crates, not pre-sliced packages that had traveled across 3 states. Some McDonald's locations still diced their onions by hand until the late 1980s. Can you imagine that today? But here's where it gets interesting.
Wow, I cannot imagine that. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, yeah. Back in the day, I'm trying to see because I used to eat McDonald's when I was a kid, but then still, most kids like McDonald's.
Fried chicken joints took
One
genuine
second.
pride in their bread.
Speaking of that, though, even though it's about McDonald's, I think about how when I was younger, back when my dad was alive, we used to like to go to Checkers. Checkers had some tasty burgers back then, but this was about 25 years ago. I think about even myself when I was a kid, Checkers burgers tasted so good.
Process. Cooks would hand dip each piece in flour, eggs, and spices you'd recognize from your grandmother's pantry. No sodium phosphates or modified cornstarch, just flour, salt, pepper, and maybe some paprika for color. The chicken actually tasted like chicken, enhanced by simple seasonings instead of masked by chemical flavor boosters. Let's not forget how these ingredients work together. When everything was real, flavors complemented each other naturally. Your fries tasted like potatoes because they were potatoes. Your shake was sweet because it contained actual sugar and vanilla, not high fructose corn syrup and vanillin. The preparation methods made a difference too. Cooks had to rely on their senses, watching, smelling, timing, because automated systems hadn't taken over yet. Food got made when you ordered it, not reheated under heat lamps after sitting for hours. Makes sense why people remember fast food tasting better back then, right? When your ingredients list reads like a chemistry
One
textbook.
second. Speaking of food getting made, it kind of reminded me today. Today, my mom's I had to take her to work, and having like today, all what I had was my protein shake, and then I had to take her to work, and then she was saying that it wasn't going to take that long by me her fixing something at her job she had to do, and it wound up taking a while. And later on, so I said, man, I'm gonna get something to eat, but really, they didn't have no type of healthy restaurants around. They just had a Jewel's, and I normally don't get my chicken from Jewel, but sometimes I would. So I had to choose between, okay, should I get a whole chicken or should I get some of the the chicken that they made, and just like how he said, they had they had some chicken that they actually just made. It was a whole chicken, and it had also the chicken that was placed under the lights. I said, okay, I'd rather get a chicken that it actually just made. That's what I went and did. Because my whole thing is that for the most part, I really don't like to go to those places because I know they're using the cheapest oil. They're not using like olive oil to make it because they want to stretch it, so they're using the cheapest thing. But it is what it is.
You've probably strayed pretty far from food. But why did companies abandon these real ingredients for artificial alternatives? Well, that story involves something far more concerning than just changing recipes. It's about changing priorities entirely. Fast food in the 1970s wasn't something you grabbed on your way to work every morning. It wasn't your default lunch option either. Most families treated McDonald's or Kentucky Fried Chicken like going to a fancy.
Speaking of fast food, I think about how I had like this one guy client, and he was on his way to me. On his way to me, he was stopping McDonald's. And then there's one guy, he's a great guy, but the main thing, and then that's when I first started realizing, okay, it's not enough about just training the person. I remember I trained him for a whole year. He lost like 10 pounds, but what he really, really needed help with was his eating habits and his food addiction. But he wouldn't pay for that. Or the time that I got him to pay for, his son wound up having him to cancel it. But that was the main thing that he needed help with was his food addictions. He was addicted to food.
Fancy restaurant, something special that happened maybe once a week, if that. Your mom didn't pull into the drive-through because she was too tired to cook dinner. She cooked dinner every single.
Ain't that something? So they would have fast food once a week. And nowadays, when I meet women or talk to women or women that fill out my application, they're eating out 3 to 5 times a week. And that's one of the other reasons why, like, man, why is that? I got a big stomach. Well, you're eating out 5 days a week. Okay. That's one of the main reasons why.
Night. The kitchen was the heart of the home, not some dusty room where you stored takeout containers. Families planned their fast food visits like mini events. Maybe we'll get burgers this Saturday after Jimmy's baseball game. It was a reward, not a routine. Drive-throughs were still this fascinating new concept that felt almost futuristic. You'd pull up to a speaker box and talk to someone inside the building. Wild stuff. Most people still walked inside to order because the whole drive-through thing seemed too weird or impersonal. The idea of eating 3 meals a week from your car window would have sounded absolutely insane. Then there's the simple fact that fast food chains weren't everywhere yet. You couldn't find a McDonald's on every corner like today. Some towns had one burger joint, maybe two if they were lucky. You actually had to drive somewhere specific to get fast food, which made it feel more intentional and special. Mothers took genuine pride in their home cooking skills. It wasn't seen as old-fashioned or oppressive.
Nowadays, like, well, I'm not cooking. I'm not cooking. Well, myself, I said, well, I mean, since my whole thing is I'm not willing to wait on nobody to feed me, so that's why I like that I can cook well myself because I can just get food when I want it instead of me just begging somebody to make me something to eat. That's just me.
It was a valued talent. Women swapped recipes at church and bragged about their pot roast. Men came home expecting a real meal, not because they were demanding, but because that's just how families operated. The dinner table was sacred ground where everyone gathered to talk about their day. But here's the weird part about treating fast food like a special occasion: it actually made the experience better. Kids got genuinely excited about going to McDonald's because it wasn't routine. The anticipation built up the experience. Compare that to today, where a happy meal is just another Tuesday. Fast food companies understood this dynamic perfectly. They designed their restaurants to feel welcoming and family-friendly because they knew parents were making a conscious choice to bring their kids.
Speaking of fast foods, right now for some reason I think about my grandfather and how he used to like to get he used to have me to go to McDonald's to get him a Big Mac.
There. The red and yellow colors, the playground equipment, the birthday party packages, everything was crafted for families who were making fast food their weekend adventure, not their daily survival strategy. This mindset shift didn't happen overnight, though. The transformation from occasional treat to everyday habit took years of clever marketing and strategic expansion. What changed wasn't just how often we ate fast food, it was how these companies started thinking about their customers and profits. Back in the 1970s, fast food chains actually cared about making good food. Wild concept, right? Restaurant owners weren't sitting in boardrooms calculating how to squeeze every penny from a hamburger patty. They wanted customers to come back because the food tasted amazing, not because it was engineered to trigger cravings. McDonald's founder Ray Kroc famously obsessed over quality control. He'd show up unannounced at random locations, taste testing everything. If the fries weren't crispy enough or the burgers looked sloppy, heads would roll. The guy literally fired managers for serving subpar food. Compare that to today's corporate culture, where profit margins matter more than whether your Big Mac actually resembles the poster. Local sourcing wasn't just a trendy buzzword either. Many chains worked directly with nearby farms and suppliers. Fresh lettuce came from farms within driving distance, not shipped frozen from thousands of miles away. Burger
Wow, wow, fresh lettuce came from farmers from driving distance. Wow, wow, so that makes
King's
sense.
original slogan, "Have it your way," reflected genuine flexibility in preparation. They could afford to customize orders because ingredients were simple and fresh. Corporate expansion moved at a snail's pace compared to today's aggressive growth strategies. Opening 50 new locations meant maintaining quality at each one. Restaurant owners knew their suppliers personally, visited their kitchens regularly, and actually tasted what they served. When you only had 30 locations instead of 30,000, keeping standards high.
One thing I gotta say, I think about how back in the day, maybe about 15 years ago, before I was a trainer, I think about it. One thing that I did like to get at McDonald's was the pancakes. That's one thing that I used to get. I almost forgot about that.
Was manageable. The weird part is how much pride these early fast food pioneers took in their recipes. Colonel Sanders would literally show up at KFC franchises with a suitcase, taste the chicken, and throw out entire batches if they didn't meet his standards. Dave Thomas of Wendy's insisted on fresh, never frozen beef patties when everyone else was cutting corners. These weren't just marketing gimmicks, they were genuine commitments to quality. Then there's the simple economics of it all. Profit margins were healthy without resorting to cheap fillers and artificial additives. A basic cheeseburger could turn a decent profit using real beef, real cheese, and simple buns. No need for textured vegetable protein or mysterious natural flavors to boost the bottom line. Customer loyalty meant something different too. Families returned to the same burger joint week after week because they trusted the food. Restaurant owners built reputations on consistency and taste, not on creating addictive flavor combinations that kept people coming back for chemical reasons.
So basically, it sounds like now the fast food places are basically acting like the drug dealer, and they're treating you like the addict. They're basically just trying to keep you hooked on the chemicals that they put in the food now. Versus before, back in the 70s, they care more about giving you all the best service and the best experience.
But here's what really made the difference in food quality. The preparation methods themselves were completely different from today's assembly line approach. Walk into most fast food kitchens today, and you'll see rows of heat lamps keeping pre-made food warm for hours. Back in the 1970s, that wasn't how things worked. Most burger patties were actually formed by hand each morning and cooked fresh when you ordered, not frozen solid for months like today's hockey pucks. McDonald's workers would take ground beef, shape it into patties, and slap them on the grill when your order came through. The meat sizzled and filled the kitchen with that unmistakable smell of real beef cooking. None of this previously frozen, reheated under a lamp for 3 hours nonsense we've gotten used to. Then there's the French fry situation. Many restaurants cut their fries from actual whole potatoes right there in the back. Workers would wash, peel, and slice potatoes every morning before opening. The fries hit the oil fresh and came out crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside. Compare that to today's pre-cut, chemically treated, frozen for months fries that taste like cardboard with salt. Let's not forget the vegetables. Salads weren't assembled days ahead and stuffed in plastic containers. Restaurant staff chopped lettuce, sliced tomatoes, and prepped vegetables fresh each morning. The produce looked vibrant and actually
Speaking of fast food restaurants, I got a story for you all. I think about how my first job was at KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I was 16 years old. I think about how when I used to have to make salad and make was it different meals. Yes, so that in the shoot, we had like a big old bag and we mixing different things and yeah. So, but I gotta say, I mean, back then, we used to have that grilled chicken tasted good, and I used to have also the amazing barbecue chicken, and I used to bring some home, and my dog kept smelling me when I came home. Like, man, you smell like barbecue chicken. My dog kept smelling me and licking me.
tasted like something. Crazy concept, right? The weird part is how cooking actually required skill back then. Cooks had to time everything perfectly without computerized systems beeping at them. They flipped burgers when they looked right, not when a timer told them to. French fries came out when they sounded right in the oil. This meant food quality varied slightly from cook to cook, but it also meant someone who cared was actually making your meal. Well, here's where it gets interesting. Food was made to order way more often than today. You placed your order and someone started cooking it for you. not grabbing something that had been sitting under heat lamps since the Carter administration. This approach meant fewer preservatives were needed because food wasn't sitting around getting stale.
And in some, so fewer preservatives mean your stomach will be flatter and you will be more healthier. Ain't that something?
Restaurant owners took pride in their fresh preparation methods. They knew customers could taste the difference between fresh and reheated food. Their reputation depended on serving something worth coming back for, not just something that looked pretty in advertisements. But even with all this fresh preparation and quality focus, restaurant owners back then understood something that seems lost today. They knew their role wasn't just feeding people good food. It was about understanding exactly what that food was doing to their customers' health and bodies. Restaurant owners back then had something we rarely see today: actual concern for their customers' well being. Wild concept, right? They genuinely believed fast food should be an occasional treat, not a daily habit that slowly destroyed your health. These weren't evil corporate overlords plotting to hook kids on sugar. They were often local business owners who lived in the same communities they served. The difference was striking. Menu items were designed with moderation in mind. Nobody was trying to engineer the perfect combination of salt, fat, and sugar to trigger addictive responses in your brain. They just wanted to make tasty food that people.
And in some, so now they care about just having the right kind of science to just keep you addicted to the food with the chemicals. Mm-mm-mm.
Would enjoy on special occasions. A burger was a burger, not a carefully calculated dopamine delivery system. Let's not forget how transparent everything was back then. Simple ingredients meant customers knew exactly what they were putting in their bodies. Reading an ingredients list didn't require a chemistry degree. Beef, bun, lettuce, tomato, onion, done. No mysterious natural flavors or 15-syllable preservatives that sound like they belong in a science lab. But here's where it gets interesting. Restaurant owners actually discouraged overeating. They weren't pushing supersized meals or creating combo deals designed to maximize calorie consumption. The goal was feeding families well, not turning them into repeat customers through carefully engineered food addiction. Crazy how that worked, isn't it? Companies back then understood something profound about human psychology. Well, they understood that satisfied customers who felt good after eating were more valuable than customers who craved your food like a drug but felt terrible afterward. This wasn't just good ethics, it was smart business. Happy, healthy customers kept coming back for decades. The weird part is how this mindset completely flipped. Modern fast food giants spend millions researching the exact combination of ingredients that will make you crave more.
Speaking of Five Guys, I've been to Five Guys maybe like once or twice. Yeah, just yeah, they give you the few burgers for like 15, $20. I'm not a fan of that though. I would rather make my burgers at home. Speaking of burgers, I love to make my chili. My chili today was so amazing. So I use a northern was a great northern beans, and I also use a 93% lean beef patty. And oh my god, I have like this new hot sauce that I've been loving. Hold on. I'm gonna show you a picture of it though. This is my chili that I made today. Look at that. Great northern beans, and it's orange because actually I got the hot sauce right here. This is my hot sauce. Hot sauce tastes delicious. This is the new one that I've been having. This is the yellow bird habanero. And it's healthy and it tastes delicious. It has habanero in it. It has also carrots, tastes delicious, some vinegar, garlic, a little bit of sugar cane, tangerine juice a little bit, and also a little bit of lime juice. Oh my god. So this is healthy and it tastes delicious. Just food for thought. And I got it. I got this sauce yellow bird from Jules. I put this shit on everything.
They hire food scientists whose entire job is making their products as addictive as possible. That 1970s restaurant owner who wanted you to enjoy your monthly treat, he's been replaced by algorithms designed to maximize your consumption frequency. Restaurant chains also moved slower back then, allowing better quality control. When you only had 50 locations instead of 50,000, you could actually maintain standards. Each restaurant felt more like a local business that
Speaking of fast food restaurant right now, I was thinking about this one hot dog place. I think about how I think about me, my sister, and my dad went to one time, and that one day my dad he took me and my sister there. Somehow we were somewhere. It was right there off of Harlem. What was it? Like what was it? Is it Harlem and like Madison? And like that hot dog place is still there. I remember that one time my dad took us there.
Happen to share a name rather than an identical factory pumping out identical products.
Wow. So, and it's so, all right, y'all. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. So yeah, y'all. So just nowadays, you gotta just work on just making food at home, and then you know exactly what's in it. You can use fewer ingredients, and that'll help you to be able to get your stomach to go down for you to feel more better. So myself, I actually eat hamburgers, but I just make it at home. I use a beef patty that's 93% lean or 90% lean. I get that. I would either use the Ezekiel bread for it because it has no preservatives and it's more healthier for you. Yeah, I got a few different kinds that I use, but that's my favorite one to go and use. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. And yes, and if you all are looking for help regarding finally being able to make a change so you can be able to change those unhealthy habits, and that's how I help my clients. So I will make them personalized habits and I will make sure that they follow them and they check them off. And this is how I help my clients. I hold them accountable in real time so they can accomplish their goals and they had the highest level of support. And this is really the only cheat code. The only cheat code is the hire a mentor, hire a fitness professional that has the experience and the technology, which I have both. So all right, y'all. I love you all. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'm gonna see you all next time. And remember, you are not your past, and you are love, and you are so worth it, and you are stronger than you think. I love you all, and I see you all next time.